Let's talk about soil. Soil is one of the most important things that you can put in your garden. There's a couple things that are really important, but soil is one of them. You have airflow, the type of soil, like the acidity, the where the balance is. I've made plenty of videos on this, but let's see if I can get more specific. Sometimes it's hard because you got a short amount of time to get this content out. I can sit up here and make an hour-long video and explain every little bit of this, but a lot of people have short attention spans, and they want information like that. We live in an age of TikTok. We don't live in the age anymore where we're spending a lot of time doing anything, getting to know people. I go to a place to check out, and the kid doesn't even look at me anymore. We can't even look at each other in the face anymore. We want information fast, watch videos, and I look at comments, and they're like, "Can you get to the point?" There's a lot of information. So it's just like we're in a different age. So I try to make these videos pretty fast. If you'd rather see a long one, let me know. But let's get into it.
One, two, three, four.
I'm just gonna run through this real quick. If you want more details, I'll probably try to link some of the other videos. But we have peat moss, which is one of the primary ingredients. Peat moss or coco coir. Coco coir breaks down super slow. A little bit faster. That it's possible this could create some issues. Generally speaking, I use this. This coco coir is going to hold on to moisture a lot better than this. This kind of wicks side to side, but this has been underwater forever. The thing is, you don't want to create waterlogged or root rot. This is a better component. But depending on the pot that you're in, let's say you can edit a pot and put in, make it an air pot, then you have that on, to add a certain level of air. It's kind of like cooking or playing scientist. What level do you want things at? You use this, hold water more, put in an air pot, depending on your situation, and pretty much put anything in an air pot. You don't have to worry about issues with root rot and things like that. We have perlite. These are the tiny little rocks. It can hold on to some of the bacteria and things. It also gives some space in the soil so it's not all sludgy. And then you have bigger ones, pumice. This is almost like a bigger perlite in a way, but this is more like a lava rock type thing. It's super light. And then you got clay pebbles. And what that does is the same sort of thing, same sort of concept. You can use any of these. So when you're talking about 1-to-1, you get 1-to-1, we can have 1-to-1, and then everything else is additives. Depending on the plant, you got to kind of know the plant that you're wanting to work with. Additive, you know what I mean? With just these, it's pretty light. You can move the pot around without having much issue. And same with this. The more that you add of like the decomposed granite or sand, so this is the other additive. Decomposed granite is going to hold on to moisture a little bit better than sand, but this adds the weight. This will hold your pots down, keep them from blowing over. Is the idea. This is like a 10% up to 30. I sometimes go up to 30% of something like this. All right, so you got to kind of mess around with stuff and figure out your own mixture. This is my main base. I use stuff like this for worms. Worms eat this really well, and I'll probably put some coir in as a like 5% of that to give something more moisture. And this is for new cuttings and new growth, things that need to retain moisture early on. But for my big pots and things like that, this is my bread and butter right here. So you can do it this way. This, you'll never really have to change anything out. We're talking like 10 years in a pot before you're having to change anything out. You want a mineral-based soil. You always see people buy things, put it in soil, and then it's like it's dead. Why did it die? It was doing great, and then 3 years, 2 years later, it died. The breakdown of the content, the decaying of organic matter. Almost forgot to talk about how the most important thing about this soil, right? So there's a meter that soil has. There's a pH balance. There's one side is alkaline, one side is acidic, and this is super important because it basically is how your plants, your trees can uptake nutrients. One side, so alkaline is like how our soil is here, the desert, this clay soil and whatnot. And why often it doesn't work with things is because it doesn't unlock your roots to uptake that soil or uptake the nutrients that you add to the soil. It's a whole other thing about it. Acidic is like the rainforest and things that there's water, rain and things like that that's leaching nutrients. There's a lot of things that are breaking down in that soil. It makes it acidic. So when you think about like rainforest and whatnot, that's what acidic is. Most things want the acidity to break things down. Most things want acidity to uptake nutrients. If your soil requires a certain nutrient, a certain acidity, a certain pH, and it's not being met, it's not going to break down, it's not going to pull in those nutrients. So something like blueberries, for instance, like I was saying, blueberries require acidic soil to uptake that nutrients. That's why a lot of times they fail, because they put them in the ground here and it doesn't work because their soil's not acidic. And it can be the other way too. Some things like a little alkaline. Most trees, most things though, in my opinion, the things that I've worked with, they love the acidic soil. They love rich nutrients in the soil, and that's what makes it acidic. So I want to show you something. So bananas, for instance, really love acidic soil. So the reason why a lot of times plants fail here in ground is because the soil's pH isn't correct. The way to slowly start to change the soil though is to start adding organic matter. So it's something you got to kind of think about at least a year in advance, a year, 2 years. The earlier you start this, the better. So you start putting mulch down and scraps in your soil. Get some worms, potentially you put some bugs in there, and things will start making their way over here. Things will start breaking down. The soil will start transforming. All it takes is bark, something that's organic. So you buy some of that organic things and you start putting it down. The soil will slowly start to transform. So you have that with watering. Even though I don't have anything really over here yet, I'm allowing this soil to change. So by the time I start putting things over here, like this banana, the soil's unlocked already.
Backyard Central. One of these mornings, let's grow. Yeah. One of these mornings, let's grow. Yeah. Yeah.
So if your soil's getting airflow, your soil's being able to uptake the nutrients, the right acidity or alkalinity, your soil's getting the food that it needs. Realistically, it's gonna, and it's getting the energy from the correct amount of energy from the tree, from the sun, then there's no reason why your plant won't do good. Certain plants require a certain amount of energy from the sun. Some plants are super hungry and really like acidic, which kind of falls down to the alkalinity. Like bananas, for instance, they're really found in organic soil that's breaking down, and really feeding it really well. So if you have all those things, why won't your plant survive? The thing is, it will. That's a thing. It'll thrive in it. I've grown tomatoes. I grow my peppers in it. I grow my citrus in it. I grow my tropicals, my dragon fruit, my peaches, grapes, in both, right? Artichokes, all sorts of things. In most of the time, it's acidic soil. It's the soil that I make with peat moss. There's argument about it being running out and things like that, but I don't know. You could do your research on that, and that's why the peat moss and the Coco coir are kind of interchangeable. Coco coir is neutral and won't add that acidicness to the soil, but it does break down differently, a lot faster than this peat moss. Peat moss, to me, I don't know. I don't have any issues with it. It's certified at this point. So you get the decomposition and you get the microbes that are breaking everything down, and then they live in bacteria, and then they live in these porous things, right? And then that's what makes things thrive, in my opinion. So depending on where you are, if you want to change even like your regular soil, if you want the alkalinity, you can add sulfur and things like that to your soil, and then you slowly over time can start changing it. And actually that is almost like instant. So that's why I use my barbecue, or I use my soil. I add that to certain types of soil, like the charcoal leftover that's burnt and broken down, and then you can also add on the other end. You can do things like you start adding organic matter to things, like I was saying, or lime if you need it to be faster. You start mixing that into your soil. You start breaking that, and you start changing it over, a year or 2, 3 years. So if you're thinking about gardening and you have different areas, you probably should start thinking about doing something like that to start changing your soil for the future. If you watch some of the videos on how I do things in pots, you can kind of see how I add organic matter and things to my pots, in living matter, all that kind of stuff. Plenty of videos on it. Look, at the end of the day, a lot of this is an opinion, but really it's rooted in logic and science. So choose to do with it what you will. At the end of the day, it's your garden. You can do things the other way. You can do things and have things break down your soil. There's so many ways that people have done it and it works, but the way that I'm doing it, to me, is the easiest. You set it up in the beginning and it just works throughout. You don't have to change anything. This soil doesn't break down, so you don't have to add anything to it. As far as the soil, you're only adding to that top layer to feed, for the most part. If you use other soils, it'll break down, and then eventually, you'll come out the next year or two, and then all of a sudden you have to buy another bag of soil to add to it. So I mean, it just makes sense to do it this way, in my opinion. Growing in pots has afforded me to be able to know exactly what's in my pot. A lot of things work better in certain situations. You can create a situation to be consistent to that situation. You put it in the ground, you got to transform it to that situation. That takes years. You do it in a pot, it's instant. If you do it this way, you change up your watering, and to be on a drip irrigation where you can do it as often as you want. That removes 50% of the problem, because sometimes it's like, are you overwatering it or are you underwatering it? This will never be a situation where you're overwatering it. You can continually water it and it'll not be an issue. And the thing is with watering, some of the posts I've seen and things like that are, well, we were growing it started to fruit and then it died. Well, it probably needed more water. And when I say that, I don't mean it's sitting in water, available water. You got to think plants are a lot like people than you think. Would you get a 5-gallon jug of water and drink that in one setting? Or does it make sense to break up that 5 gallons into, 50 cups of water and drink that over a day, a week or whatever? Which one's going to make more sense? You drink that 5-gallon water all at once and then it's just gone. But you can't
It doesn't make any sense to do it that way. Not when in pots, especially. There's an argument for it in ground because the roots are gonna grow to it or whatever. Even the trees I have in ground that I've been doing for a couple years are just flourishing this way as well. So I don't know. And some of the things that I've been studying on this say the same thing. Like short waterings make more sense than really deep waterings all at once. Different areas have different situations. Here, I can only talk about what I know to be true. And to know what to be true, you have to do it for a couple of years. I think a 3-year minimum, you know if something's working for the most part, right? So, been doing this in pots, definitely. The longest I've had in ground for a tree is about 3 years. So, there's that as well. Anyway, if you have any questions or concerns, leave me a comment below. Do you want to see that hour-long video? I don't know. I just like talking about this stuff and helping people help themselves, teach you how to fish. Anyway, do the liking, the sharing, subscribing, and all those things. We'll talk to you soon. One of these days, though, I'm going to get you onto your own garden to grow. For now, let's grow.
Let's grow.